The one thing we haven't talked about is her choice of vice president. I think Tim Walz is another breath of fresh air. I mean, this guy, the fact that she chose him says to me that she really does believe in centrism in the middle class. I mean, this guy is a classic American middle class story. And what did Donald Trump do? He doubled down on a far right conspiracy theorist who constantly indulges in grievance based culture war politics based on lies, who has been supported by the trillionaires in the high tech Silicon Valley, and who have funded his campaigns in JD Vance. I think that contrast should really show something about Kamala Harris's judgment. You know, one is a coach and a teacher, Tim Walz, and the other is a venture capitalist who made a fortune really quick by trading on ties from Yale Law School and then getting in close to Peter Thiel and other right-wing players in the tech industry. And so ask yourself, who's most likely to understand what's really happening to the American people? Now, I know that JD Vance wrote a book and he claims that he came from a hardscrabble background, and I don't dispute that at all. I know that he served in the military, so did Tim Walz. I think I respect both those things. But what has he done as an adult? As an adult, all he's done is pursue opportunism for his self-interest among the rich and not represented middle-class values. So I think that's a telling decision and contrast.
No, I think that the Tim Walz decision is a good one, and he came from a swing district. He helped swing that district and vote Democratic after 100 years, essentially in Republican control, which tells you a lot about the guy. And he's I think he's governed in a way that probably is the way forward for the Democrats, is from a centrist perspective, from an area that you try to get votes from both sides and win an election. Yes. with kind of a centrist message, but maybe in somewhat of an FDR-esque type way, where he certainly was socially very active, but he was also getting the middle of the country voting for him.
Yeah, I think, the interesting thing about Walz is he recognizes that these cultural issues are important, right? He did serve in the military for 24 years. He's a hunter. He wears the baseball cap and the hunting, camouflage. And that's who he really is. He's a coach. I mean, he culturally is, I think, comfortable for a lot of Americans. And I don't think that was an accident. I think Harris recognizes those issues are important to many people. And I think it was a master stroke, and it could turn decisive in a very close election. Usually vice presidents don't matter, but I think in a very close election, I think he's going to have a great debate against JD Vance himself, Tim Walz. And I think Tim Walz is a much more attractive figure and much more like most Americans than JD Vance.
Yeah, hopefully Walz will be very saleable in his, Wisconsin, Michigan, and
Pennsylvania. Yeah, that's right. And it is worth noting that we now have North Carolina is in play. Georgia is in play. Arizona is in play. Nevada. There are a lot of states here, and I feel that it's pretty amazing the comeback she has made from where Biden had us 2 months ago. Because the polling 2 months ago for Joe Biden after that debate was really, really bad. And I think she deserves tremendous credit to get us to here. The key is that we need to get behind her to put ourselves over the top for the future of the country. That, politics is a symbiotic thing. There's a relationship between leaders and the people. They have to help one another. They have to be there for each other. I think Trump's only concerned about himself. I think Harris and Walz are genuinely concerned about the future of the country.
Well, let me ask you about Florida and Texas. I've heard that the polling has tightened up in those states to where it might even be close to within the margin of error.
And in Ohio, JD Vance is Ohio, where I grew up, and I grew up in Pennsylvania and Ohio. I think it's unlikely that those states are going to be in play. I think the states to me that are obviously Pennsylvania is crucial. This is why I think the gas issue is crucial. You'll notice that Harris did her debate prep in Pittsburgh. She holed up in Pittsburgh for the last week and did events all week long in Pennsylvania. I also think that Georgia has shown an ability to turn out the vote. People like Stacey Abrams in Georgia. So, and now we have a big new state like North Carolina in play. I think Trump's having to play some defense in some places. To your point, Matt, they didn't think they were going to have to. And I saw that Trump has just given up on New Hampshire, for example, that used to be a swing state. So I think that things are trending well, but we've got to work with this centrist Democratic ticket and support it for our future. It's an incredibly important election. Ironically, it's even more important than 2016 because now Trump does have this cadre of ideologically driven, followers who are going to put in place all these crazy policies and that'll really devastate our country and undermine our environmental protection. So it couldn't be more important.
Right. Yeah. When 2016 rolled around, Trump was really fumbling his way into the office, had no idea what he was doing really for a couple of years. And this time around, he understands kind of the levers of power a lot more than he did in 2016. So it makes him a lot more dangerous than he was.
I think so, unfortunately. So it's incredibly, whether it's energy and providing cheap, clean energy or climate protection and public safety, or whether it's our, reproductive health or growing the middle class or having fairness in healthcare availability, growing small businesses, all these issues, I think, favor the Democrats and Harris Walz. And I really think people need to understand that this is the most important election of my lifetime. This is the one that will really determine our way forward for quite some time. And we haven't even talked about the international implications of having Trump and, who's going to give away half of Ukraine, on day one to Vladimir Putin. I don't know why he's got such a bro crush on every dictator around the world, but it's an incredibly dangerous thing that he just, wants to pacify every dictator by, giving them, the run up to World War II like pacifist options. I just think he's a very, very dangerous figure.
Well, literally saying that he would tell green light Putin to invade some of our NATO allies if they didn't pay up their 2%, that they would, like that's the most insane thing ever, or to destroy NATO. I mean, the most effective alliance for keeping the peace in Europe for 75 years. It's the danger is just extraordinarily high, and he is either an idiot or a pawn of Putin.
That's right, Matt. And the other thing is, you just see in his rambling Fidel Castro-like 3-hour speeches that he's increasingly unhinged. He's talking about topics no one knows what he's talking about. He's talking about sharks and bacon prices tripling, and just crazy stuff. This is why Tim Walz says he's now weird. Let's be honest. Who is the person who you worry about their age and temperament in the presidency? Trump with the crazy stuff he says all the time, or Harris with a new centrist vision of the country? I think the American people at the end of the day need to make the right choice, and I believe they will.